I would like to introduce Cinda Rose. She's a native of Fort Gibson, Oklahoma. She is a local recording and spoken word artist who enjoys writing poetry and songwriting. Cinda is the founder of True Roots Cultural Arts Association, where stories of culture are shared with local youth, working to preserve cultural legacy for future generations. She's the author of Cinda's Psalms, life lyrics expressed through poetry. Her work reflects a deep passion for heritage, storytelling, creative expression that continues to inspire her community. Ladies and gentlemen, Cinda Rose. While Cinda is working her way up to the stage, I want to say that it's been a great day. These are being recorded and will be available later on YouTube on the Cherokee Nation channel. What the?
Before the vision of our opponent arose, we were once entangled. We spoke the same language, valued the same customs. We shared souls. Long before separation brought our story of togetherness to a close, we walked together in harmony, only peace abode. Al go wadesti, we are united. We shared souls. In 1863, excuse me just a moment. In 1863, Principal Chief John Ross and the Cherokee Nation's National Council passed an Emancipation Proclamation of its own, abolishing chattel slavery within the Cherokee Nation. It was not until the signing of the Treaty of July 1866 that we were granted full rights of all Cherokee citizens. Below is a story of my maternal lineage leading up to the emancipation of who were once enslaved. Tia Miles wrote in her book, Ties That Bind, the Cherokee people and the progeny of those once enslaved in their territory share a story. It is a story of colonialism, slavery, removal, civil war, injustice, survival, and resilience, one that their ancestors shaped together. So I know many of you are familiar with a certain pattern that I wasn't able to bring today, but my mother made these beautiful elaborate quilts. They were 8-pointed star quilts. And I had no idea that they were so familiar as to the Cherokee custom of the 7-star. I never knew growing up she made them all our lives, and she ended up making one for each of her children. She had 7 children. She made 7 quilts, and she made many more. As I grew older and I started seeing and getting more involved in Cherokee custom. I said, wow, a lot of these quilts that I see remind me of my mother's quilts. I wonder if there's something behind the story. I had no idea. So I asked a friend of mine, Matthew Anderson, and he had a lot to tell me about the quilts. His words were like a light that helped me see the meaning more clearly. When he saw the quilts made by my mother, he exclaimed, "Those are hard to make." He went on to explain they were heirlooms. The star signified finding guidance in the least expected places, just like a star in the night sky. Even in the night, when you still yourself, and a tiny light can help you find your way. So that meant a lot to me to know a little bit more about what was the story behind the 7-star quilt? What was the story behind the 8-star quilt? And to hear it from a fellow Cherokee citizen, it brought closure to what these quilts meant, what they signified. And even though I don't think my mother knew, because she never spoke of it, it was just something that she learned from her grandmother that was passed down, and it carried on. So I thought that was a beautiful sentiment she made for all of us. This is my mother. She was born in 1941, and she lived in a time where I personally feel simple ways of life were much more valued. My mother grew up in a small town of Fort Gibson, Oklahoma, known as the Illinois District of Cherokee Nation in the 1800s. In the 1800s, after the removal, she lived with her mother and her father, Edgar Macnack, along with her 8 siblings. Growing up, my mother always mentioned that we were Cherokee descent. Being I was young and only had a brief introduction of being Cherokee descent, I honestly didn't know anything of the culture and didn't take much into consideration at that time. In her book, Dr. Miles recaptures a time when Cherokees and African Americans considered each other kin. A time when they shared customs and worked side by side before the influence of European settlers. In this time, kin was not determined by the color of our skin or blood quantum. The strong ties that made us kin were indeed our shared culture and our shared experiences on the land. Are any of you familiar with that? Have any of you heard these stories? This is my, I believe, 3rd great-grandmother. Before we talk about her, we're going to talk a little bit about my grandfather, Edgar Macnack, who was born in 1903 in Fort Gibson, Illinois District of Indian Territory. He was an only child. My grandfather owned a farm, and I recall my mother telling me he produced corn whiskey. His mother, Fanny Macnack, my great-grandmother, whom you see here, was born in 1884 in Fort Gibson. She had her first and only child at the age of 20. My grandfather, Edgar Macnack. She married Charlie McDavid at the age of 21. Within a year of getting married, my great-grandmother, Fanny, passed away at the age of 22, leaving my grandfather, Edgar Macnack, behind at the age of 2 years old. Without a father or mother, my grandfather, Edgar, was raised by his grandparents, Adam, and his wife, Frances Macnack. My third great-grandmother, Frances, was born in 1857 at the Hildebrand Mill, Delaware District of Cherokee Nation. In 1901, in her interview with the Dawes Commission, she enrolled along with herself 9 children. During the interview, she stated she was born on the Hildebrand Mill. She was also asked if she was ever a slave. She responded, "No. In that I was never sold. I was carried away somewhere, though." Fanny was further asked who was her owner. She responded, "John Patrick." She was further asked who her parents were. She stated Stephen and Susie Hildebrand. and I want to share this poem with you about my grandfather, Adam McNack. My great-grandfather, Adam McNack, was known throughout the land. The people would come from near and far when in need of his healing hands. He lived in Cherokee County. He knew the properties of all the herbs that grew upon his land. He was born in 1855, returned to his home in the sky in 1926. He was well known as a local herb doctor. Uncle Adam, they called him, the renowned medicine man. Being that her father, Stephen Hildebrand, was a Cherokee citizen and member of a prominent Hildebrand family that had a child with a black woman, could there have been some issues that arose? What do you all think? Think it might have been some issues during that time? Absolutely. So we're not clear on the reason why Frances was carried away as a child. We do know that she lived in a time when marriages or relationships between Cherokees and enslaved blacks were not legally accepted. And here I want to talk a little bit about, just a little side note, I want to talk a little bit about our role in the Trail of Tears. In 1838, the forced removal of Cherokee people began. If you guys just follow along with me, I wasn't able to share it on the slide. But there was a journal written by Reverend Daniel S. Butrick that describes what he witnessed on the removal in numerous journal entries. Butrick writes, for those Cherokees who had access to black women and men, the harsh impact of removal was blunted. In addition to bearing the hardships of the journey, slaves were enlisted to do the additional work of hunting for their masters, nursing the sick, preparing meals, guarding the camps at night, and hiking ahead of the group to ensure passable roads. Butrick recorded in his journal the labors and deaths of a handful of blacks in his detachment. He further writes in his journal on the accounts of a black man that cut wood for the night and a black woman by the name of Nancy that was employed to wash and dry their clothes in the evening by the fire. So, in conclusion, the presence of black slaves during removal made it possible for the Cherokee masters to survive the ordeal and rebuild efficiently in the move to the west. They helped. They were there. Did any of you know this? Were you aware of this? And I've heard many stories about the Trail of Tears, you know, growing up, going to public schools, but that was never included. And so, you know, there's many things that are not included. But as we grow and we seek, we find. And it was very interesting to know that we played such a crucial role in the Trail of Tears and what really binds us and connects us as a people and what kin really means. And it's the hardships that we share. It's what we face. It's not necessarily, okay, you know, this is necessarily my blood or not my blood, but what hardships did we face together? What did we go through together? What makes you family? Those are questions we need to ask, right? Make sure I'm on track here. What does it mean to be Black Cherokee? What defines this glorious yet forcefully abased and criticized identity? See the root of all the full, vibrant, colorful trees, the rich, dark soil, bearer of the grass and all the fruit for all time throughout eternity? Yet you ask, what does it mean to be Black Cherokee? I am the carrier of life. The seed grows through my abundant soil. There is not one living being on earth that has not partaken of me. I am the dew that rests upon the hearts in existence. I am the eternal mother, the giver of vitality, the fruition of life, and all that bind. Every creation in existence, essentially an extension of me. This is the story of the true root that brings forth the branches of the tree. This is what it means to be Black Cherokee. In the old day, the Afro population were not always viewed as slaves or blacks. In Ties That Bind, Dr. Miles writes of a time before accepted cultural changes introduced by European and British settlers when shared culture determined family ties. The question arises after all the years that have passed. Many intrusive and dark changes have torn us apart. Can we capture our first beginnings? Can we have it all back? In the days of old, when we walked together, when unity was all we had known, the days of kinship, family, and the time we shared souls. I think I'm going backwards here. So therefore, in 1857, Frances was born in the dark days of slavery on the Hildebrand Mill. Frances not being considered as a Cherokee citizen and that her mother was enslaved, she was crossed between two different worlds. She was labeled Black and Cherokee. With the information provided, we can only imagine what she experienced at that time. Do you guys have any idea what that might have felt like? Anyone would like to share what you think that might have felt like to be torn between two worlds? You think there might have been an identity crisis going on there? Absolutely. So why do we share this information? Why do we talk about it? It's not to make anyone feel negative emotions, but I'm a firm believer that we cannot change what we don't face, right? And many of us, including me, didn't have any idea what happened. What was the role of the freedmen? We didn't know. We weren't educated on it. So I believe that in education, we have the opportunity to bring change, right? So that's why we talk about these things. It's to bring awareness. It's to bring healing. It's to bring togetherness, right? But if we ignore it and we never talk about it, what happens? We stay stuck in our comfort, right? We stay stuck in what feels okay. We don't know about it. So what we've always known, it feels okay, right? But comfort is toxic. That sounds strange, doesn't it? Comfort is toxic. Just think about it for a minute. When you're comfort, what do? You don't grow. Exactly. You stay complacent. So next time we're faced with discomfort, and even if we're feeling discomfort now and having this discussion, it's an opportunity to grow. It was very uncomfortable for me. But this was my opportunity to grow, to grasp, to learn. But if I had stayed in my ignorance and my unknowing, how could I grow? How could I advance? Right? Absolutely. So it's a growing process for all of us. So next time you're faced with discomfort, remember that. This is a great opportunity for you to grow. That's all it means. It's not to make you have negative emotions or feel bad about what you're feeling. Grow from that. I keep going backwards. You guys bear with me just a moment. Okay. My third great-grandmother, Frances, was born in 1857 at the Hildebrand Mill, Delaware District of Cherokee Nation. Did we go over this already, you guys? Help me out. Forgive me. Here we go. Okay. Nations reel and stagger on their way. They make hideous mistakes. They commit frightful wrongs. They do great and beautiful things. And shall we not best guide humanity by telling the truth about all this, so far as the truth is ascertainable? As a quote by W.E.B. Du Bois. In the late 1700s, after 150 years of interaction, if we could find it here, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? I think you're right, Melissa. Would that be it? Okay, thank you. In the late 1700s, after 150 years of interaction with Euro-American and British slaveholders, the Cherokee government delegitimized Cherokee families that included black members and outlawed marriage between Cherokees and enslaved blacks, even as it legalized intermarriage of Cherokees and whites. Were you all aware of that? However, this new adoptive way went against the origin of what it meant to be kin amongst the Cherokee. Native people in the Southeast viewed kinship, not freedom, as the antithesis of slavery. In the Cherokee understanding, to be kin meant being human, and to be human meant being free. Absolutely.
Excuse me, thank you. Thanks for being here. Awesome stuff. I had a question because late 1700s I learned that old settlers were here, and Trail of Tears was 40 years later, 30 years later, and all of that we celebrate the holiday about, the unity and the Constitution. So I think these things, I just realized, happen over where I live. I'm from Atlanta, over in Georgia, right? Mm-hmm. So it makes a lot of sense. I just wanted to say I get that now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And by the way, we'll have a little Q&A section at the very end, okay?
Okay. Make sure I'm where I need to be. Okay. The Cherokee Nation passed a law denying citizenship to enslaved blacks, even those of Cherokee ancestry, in an attempt to foreclose future possibilities for Cherokee and black intermarriages. The new law stated intermarriages between Negro slaves and Indians or whites shall not be lawful, and any person or persons permitting his or her or their Negro slaves to intermarry with Indians or whites, he, she, or they so offending shall pay a fine of $50, one half for the benefit of the Cherokee Nation, and any male Indian or white man marrying a Negro woman slave, he or they shall be punished with 59 stripes on the bare back. And any Indian or white woman marrying a Negro man slave shall be punished with 25 stripes on their bare back. Was anyone aware of this? That this was a law? Okay, me either. So we see how crucial, how serious it was, and what we were forbade to do in that time. And so thinking about that, Can we see how today, when we're faced with questions, and I know this is supposed to be dismissed at this time, right? But it's still there. But when you think about this now, in this present day, how do you think that many of us that are of Cherokee Freedmen descent are viewed? How could that make it where we're not recognized as by blood? How could what I just read make it to where we're not recognized as by blood, even though we are? Can you see how that happened? It was a law against any relationship. You weren't recognized. So even if your mother or your father were Cherokee and they had a child with a freedman or an enslaved person at that time, it doesn't matter. Your property, right? You're not Cherokee. Do you see how that happened? Can we see it? And this, again, is just something for us to see and realize and sit with before we pass judgment, before we look at one another indifferently. How did this all come about? It's good to know these laws. It's good to know how this happened. We were ultimately dismissed. And, the Cherokee Nation of the 1820s incorporated change on a grand scale. Against this backdrop, possibilities for Cherokee and Black alliances were limited by law and thus erased from the record. The Cherokee Constitution proclaimed Cherokee African descent to be non-citizens or even second-class citizens. Cherokee laws defined blacks solely as slaves or intruders. And intruders were the free blacks, not the freedmen, but the free blacks that were outside of the Cherokee Nation that came in. They considered them intruders. So the descendants of Cherokee men by all free women, except the black race, whose parents may have been living together as man and wife according to these customs and laws of this nation, shall be entitled to all the rights and privileges of this nation, as well as the prosperity of Cherokee women by all free men. No person who is of Negro or mulatto parentage, either by the father or mother side, shall be eligible to hold any office of profit, honor, or trust under this government. The investment that members of the Cherokee elite made in the American system of valuing and racializing property, accepting improved land as a signifier of civilization and blackness, a signifier of enslavement. Did you guys get that? Did I say it clearly? Accepting improved land as a signifier of civilization, and blackness a signifier of enslavement. So if you were black, you were automatically viewed as an enslaved person. An investment in a system that subordinated and ultimately excluded Cherokee. Going backwards again, you guys, bear with me. What creates this inseparable tie between two or more people? What makes them kin? Is it the same spark in their eyes, the familiar cadence of their voice, the memories that run through their minds, or is it their mere appearance of the color of their skin? I would dare to think it's the time spent in hardship and the challenges once faced together as a people. The laughter, the love that evolved amongst fellow women and men. This is the bond that is thick as blood. This is the shared soul that makes two or more kin. Did I say that already? Yes, I did. Give me just a moment. You guys, I'm sorry. Forgive me today. In 1825, the council further enacted a special provision. The Cherokee Council was the first amongst the tribes to acknowledge the presence of intermarried white women in the nation. So what exactly did this mean for intermarriages between white women and Cherokee men? Cherokee were a matrilineal tribe in which clan membership and Cherokee belongings had customarily passed from Cherokee mother to child. In the 1825 provision of the 1819 law, Cherokee government sanctioned marriages between white women and Cherokee men by promising their children equal place in the nation. They now were citizens by blood and had all rights to clan membership as well as inheritance of their spouses' belongings. Did you all know this? Has anybody ever heard this before? Okay. Furthermore, in the conciliatory address in 1813, Indian agent Return Meigs informed the Cherokee troops that only a select few could achieve high rank in the Cherokee regiment. Guess who those select few were? Absolutely. More than 2/3 of the Cherokee regiment, 13 out of 19 companies, were led by Cherokees that had one white parentage. Did you all know that? So again, blackness came to denote enslavement. In a colonial society, black people themselves became property. And redness or native came to denote an uncivilized state. Native people were deemed unworthy of retaining their own land. Right? So this was ultimately a system that was against everything that Cherokee knew. Right? Right. Where are we here? Okay. So in the case of Susie Hildebrand, born in 1836, a black enslaved woman being with Stephen Hildebrand and having his child in the mid-1800s, how might her life have been? How do you think her life may have been? She was an enslaved woman living on her slave owner's land, and she was now having a child with Stephen Hildebrand. How do you think her life may have been? What do you think her experiences may have partaken of? Anyone? Right. Crippling. Yes. Absolutely. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. The Hildebrand Mill. Melissa, you may know exactly where the Hildebrand Mill may have been located. It was early state. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. So we can more clearly comprehend how matters such as blood quantum for enslaved blacks were denied. Our lineage that would have linked us to the Cherokee Nation was not considered. Okay. Let me go back. Okay. Yeah.
Hildebrand was somewhere on Stick Ross Mountain Road.
Okay.
I think I read that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so Stephen Hildebrand, my sixth-generation grandfather, born April of 1833 in Tennessee, was the son of my seventh-generation grandfather, John Hildebrand, born in 1803 in Tennessee. and an unnamed Cherokee woman. So we don't know his mother. But Stephen married Maypaul Beck in 1851 in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. So you're probably correct. It was in Tahlequah, somewhere off Stick Ross Road. They had 2 sons and 4 daughters. With this information, could it be possible, since he was married to Mary Pauline Beck in 1851, this is the findings that I have. With this information, could it be possible the cause of Frances being carried away is due to her father being legally married to another woman? It could be, right? We're not clear, but we know he was married, he had children, and he had a child with an enslaved woman, right? So John Hildebrand was the son of Michael Hildebrand, born in 1781, and Nancy Martin, born 1778 in Tennessee, my 8th generational grandparents. I think I got that right. It is recorded Michael Hildebrand owned over 1,000 acres on either side of the Oshkosh River at the Federal Road crossing. He owned many slaves who tended his farms, and this image is one of Michael Hildebrand's slave huts, which housed his Negro slaves. This slave hut, built sometime before 1819, housed slaves for over 40 years until emancipated in 1863. Nancy Martin, my 8th generation grandmother, was the daughter of Elizabeth, known as Betsy Ward, born about 1759 in Tennessee, my 9th generation grandmother, who is the daughter of Nancy Ward, or Nana Yahi, born in 1738 in Monroe County, Tennessee, and Brian Ward, born 1732 in Virginia, my 10th generation grandparents. So this is something that the historian David Hampton helped me to receive, and it is my my certificate from the descendancy of Nancy Ward. And listed is my lineage, starting with myself, as you can see, and ending with Nancy Ward. So we discussed some of my own family lineage and relived some of the challenges faced walking us back through the generations that brought me here today. I want to end by stating we all have our own personal journeys. I would hope many here are much like me, embracing a journey of facing our truths and of healing and reconciliation within our family ties that bind us together. So once again, I'm reminded as we come to a close, can we as a reunited people rekindle the fellowship we had in the days of old? When we walked together, watched our children grow, the days in which there was no division, only working and building together, and the days we saw each other as kin. In times, I'll go Wadesti. We shared souls. Thank you.
Wow, that was fantastic. It was great to learn that history that not many of us knew. So we certainly appreciate that. We'd like to open it up for some questions, comments, if anyone has some. Okay.
Why don't they teach this in schools?
Oh, in Oklahoma?
Wow. That's an age-old question, darling. And here's my take on that. Fear. Fear. Fear that if we know the truth, what would change? How would the roles change? How would we come together? Because where there's togetherness, there's always power, right? And where there's separation, what is it? There's always weakness. So why would they want a nation that is strong? What does that do? We ask ourselves, what does that do for a nation? To have everyone united and strong. We might see things differently. We might work together. We might work to make changes. So in my take on that, fear plays a definite role in why many things are not shared in our public schools. And that's just my personal opinion. But if we come together and we work together, we can make great changes. Look at this room. Look at this room. It's a beautiful sight, right? It's a beautiful vision. If we come together and we work together and we see past the division and the poison that's been put in our minds, what could we do as a people? What changes could we make? Mighty changes, great changes.
That's great. And I'd also like to say that on a personal note, it's great to see the Creek Nation acknowledge their true past as well. So, other questions? Okay.
Well, coming to the now, how do you feel that the Freedmen Cherokee community is accepted in the larger Cherokee community? Is it Cherokee Nation? Yes.
Good question. I see that we are growing. I see that it is improving. And it will continue to improve as long as we make gradual steps like this. It's changing. And we can't expect it to change briefly, because when you're looking at history that's been in place for hundreds of years, you can't expect it to change within a season, right? It may take several seasons, but all we need is those gradual steps, and we have it. I'm looking at this room, and I'm seeing gradual steps, and I'm very appreciative. I'm very happy for that. So I think we are changing. I think we are growing. We just have to keep going in that direction.
Will you sing us a song?
Oh, look at her. Will you sing? She puts me on the spot. That's my family, you guys. You gotta ignore her. Give me one. I'm drawing a blank here. Oh, don't you do it. Go ahead.
I'm thinking, what was the song that you sung? Did you sing one at the Trail of Tears?
Oh, I can share that poem with you.
Yeah, and you sung in that poem. Wait, did you already go over it, or are you going to do a new poem?
I didn't go over it here.
Okay, let's do it.
Since you put me on the spot. You got a little family. So this poem is a poem I wrote for Miss Ashana Miles. She had an event, I believe, a few months ago, and realizing that her family walked the Trail of Tears. And so she reached out to me and she asked me to write something. And this is what we came up with. Who are we? We are the fellow man, the fellow woman who walked alongside you. We endured the ridicule, the agony, the long dark nights of removal from a familiar place and time. We shared the same broken song, the same heartache, a journey far from home and unclear. We cried your tears. The journey was one of endurance. We walked through the shadow of death, emboldened, and marked the relentless stand forged against our lives with utter shame. The intense days were filled with turmoil, from hearts trembling with fear. Yet standing side by side, we continued leaning on one another. Together, we weathered the storm. We took our place on the other side of defeat in hope of a brighter day. We see the breaking of dawn drawing near. As a people, we all embellish this promising moment as we walk together. We cried, we cried, your tears. We now reside in a new land, a new home, one where our children will know we never have to walk alone. If we choose to grow wiser from a speckled past, we build a new, victorious legacy, one that will conquer hate and division. A new song has come, a song of peace, a song of resolution. We once lost our melody together. We shared our blood and tragedy, and never did we lose heart. We survived. We are our ancestors. Moonlight through the darkness. We have arrived in this place to be reconciled after many restless years. In trial and through tribulation, we are connected. We cried, we cried, we cried, your tears.
Adele, that was amazing. That was amazing. So, if no one else has any more requests or questions, oh,
Are the quilt patterns from your family?
The patterns, honestly, she never gave much information where they derived, only that she got it from her grandmother. So it was passed down through the lineage, and it was something she always loved to do, and she did it by hand. And that last quilt, this quilt is actually one of my mother's quilts. She made this quilt. This is one of my brother's quilts. I wish I could have I actually have it, but I wasn't able to display it. But I'm not sure where they came from. I just, honestly, as I got more involved with learning about my Cherokee lineage, and I saw the patterns, and I saw the quilts, and I thought, wow, these look just like my mom's quilts. And so I started asking questions. And that's how I came to the conclusion that it was probably a custom passed down from someone, on the Cherokee side of my lineage. And my mom inherited it. She loved to do it.
great. Cinda, bless you for delivering the message today. What though?
Thank you for having me.